On my video on the unofficial trilogy of The Big Short, Margin Call, and Too Big to Fail, I got comments recommending the film The Last Days of Lehman Brothers. I had never heard of this film. It has a great cast. It's a 50-minute BBC television movie. It tells the story of the weekend before Lehman declared bankruptcy. I decided to watch it. And let me tell you, this movie is so weird. If you haven't seen it, here's a plot summary. It has a lot of overlap with Too Big to Fail. So if you want a video comparing them directly, drop a comment down below and subscribe. At the beginning, we meet Zach, our narrator. He works in the office of Lehman CEO, Richard Fuld. Lehman's stock price has dropped significantly by Friday afternoon, and they are in a precarious position. Over the weekend, Fuld tries to broker deals to save Lehman. Meanwhile, Hank Paulson, Secretary of the Treasury, gathers key individuals and CEOs from other financial institutions to try to save Lehman. John Thane, the CEO of Merrill Lynch, seeing that his company might be next, brokers his own deal to save Merrill with Bank of America. By Sunday night, no plan to save Lehman works, and they are forced to declare bankruptcy. That sounds like a pretty standard finance film, right? So what's weird about it? Let's start off with the tone. When the movie starts, it's lightly comedic. Fuld is shown as a blustering CEO. There are some film noir elements with the music and Zach's narration. The scenes at the New York Federal Reserve are played as normal drama, for the most part. The film noir elements return later in the film. There's also this bizarre moment where Fuld quotes Bible verses about Babylon, and then his secretary continues quoting more verses. This feels like it's from another movie. The tone is all over the place as the genre shifts. When preparing to make the film, producer Lisa Osborne said that the research had all the material for a great drama, and that there were elements of disaster films and Greek tragedy. Other films about the 2008 crash also have a mix of genres. The mix of genres in those films serves as a way to convey information. For example, the documentary-style elements in Too Big to Fail keep the viewer grounded in time. The horror movie elements of Margin Call show the severity of the projected losses for a fictional firm. Here, it feels like the genre mix was to make it more fun for the audience. For me, this ended up feeling like whiplash, and the genre mix did not convey information. Watching this movie has made me wonder why films about the 2008 financial crisis contain a mix of genres and aren't just regular dramas. But that's a discussion for another time. The second weird thing was the inclusion of a narrator. Zach is a fictional character. Craig Warner, the screenwriter, said, "I think the voiceover brings an element of humor. Zach's narration mostly gives exposition, but not explanation. This contrasts with The Big Short, where the character Jared Vennett shows up when something needs to be explained. Jared is present throughout The Big Short. In this film, Zach narrates at the beginning and the end, and briefly in another scene or two. He doesn't seem to be present enough for his narration to add to the film. I think an explainer may have been useful in the scenes with the other CEOs. That leads us to the third weird thing. Every finance film about the 2008 crash has to find a way to explain what happened to the audience. Here, Zach goes to the Federal Reserve and helps look over Lehman's portfolio. He then has his sister explain how the subprime mortgage crisis brought down Wall Street, because she got her house that way. His sister explains how she was able to get a mortgage, and how mortgages got bought up by the banks, how CDOs were invented, and how the ratings became more and more complex as the CDOs were traded back and forth. This is weird because in a movie that's supposed to help the public understand the 2008 crash, this explanation is confusing. It's mostly Zach's sister talking with some B-roll footage over some parts. The reason why the banks wanted the mortgages in the first place is left until the end of the explanation. And it's when she's talking quickly. She quickly says that when people didn't pay their mortgages, some people remembered that the CDOs were connected. The very end of the explanation is rushed. As someone who understands the crash, I could see what parts of the explanation were missing. Today, I can stream this movie and rewatch this explanation. If I was watching it when it aired on television initially and could not rewatch this part, I don't think I would understand what it was saying at all. It's a unique take to have a regular person explain the subprime mortgage crisis. However, the unintended consequence is that it seems like the regular person doesn't understand it and is trying to explain it based off of limited information. There are explainer lines from other characters, but they fall flat. The Last Days of Lehman Brothers debuted in September 2009, 1 year after Lehman declared bankruptcy. It may be the first film to tackle the crash. The BBC made it as part of a slate of programming designed to explain the crash. Production was quick. 5 weeks for scriptwriting, 2 weeks for filming, and 5 weeks for editing. I think the short length of the film, the fast-paced production schedule, and the year-long time frame between the real events and the film all contributed to these weird elements. In several ways, there just wasn't time to fix these things. I also wonder if there may have been more information about the weekend meeting and Lehman Brothers available after this movie came out. So, is this movie worth watching? It might surprise you that I say yes. The cast is superb. All of the CEO characters have well-defined, strong personalities that clash with each other in the Federal Reserve scenes. James Cromwell plays Secretary Paulson as stern. This film is worth watching to see how it uses Thane as a foil for Fuld. While Fuld would not budge despite months of warning signs, Thane pivots when he sees the writing on the wall. Where Fuld cannot see himself doing anything else, Thane gives up some prestige to ensure his survival. This contrast between the two is a great creative choice. There's a scene where Ken Lewis, the CEO of Bank of America, talks to Thane about art galleries and exhibitions that Bank of America has funded. It's a magnificent, multi-layered metaphor for the situation they are in, and it's worth seeing. It's also worth watching to see the evolution of how the 2008 crash gets explained in movies, as it was probably the first film to tackle it. It's interesting to see which elements from this movie, such as a narrator, pop up in later films. It feels like if Too Big to Fail had the pizzazz of The Big Short. Have you watched this movie? What did you think? Let's discuss. If you liked this video, please subscribe. Thanks for watching.